Hi guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm reviewing season 2, episode 6 of the Gilded Age. And before we jump in, I just have to say thank you and shouts out to all of my existing and new subscribers. We finally crossed the 1,000 subscriber threshold, and I am so grateful that so many of you care to show support and or slide over here to listen to me yammer on about my thoughts about things. So thank you. Okay, let's dive right in. So things are really heating up with the unions. Okay, so Mr. Russell goes to Pittsburgh and he visits with the union leader, and this is exactly what I was hoping would happen, that he would go and see how his workers live, and that would humanize them for him, and he would be able to show some empathy for the way these people live, working for him, boosting up his life and his excessive wealth. And I really, really liked the juxtaposition of showing these people who live in these really humble accommodations. It's a big family packed into a little space, and they're just making do with what they have. And then they switch to Bertha talking to the Wintertons in this excessive, wealthy Russell home. I think that juxtaposition was really important, but I think him seeing the union leader with his kids and his wife, and knowing that his young son, who is probably Larry Russell's age, is about to go into the same factory with the same lack of safety, the same lack of a quality of life. And I think that really turned things around for George, because they were bringing in the National Guard to make sure that the scabs could get into the factories to work. And the union protesters were like, we came ready to fight. They came armed, not great. They weren't armed great. There were pitchforks and lead pipes. And, the National Guard had like bayonets. Okay. You can't bring a pitchfork to a literal gunfight. And George saw how this was about to end. And I think also seeing that young boy, that he probably saw, Larry in that young boy, this was going to be a loss of life. So I'm happy that George called for the National Guard to stand down, and that the union won the day, because all those people are asking for is to be paid a livable wage and to have some sort of safety standards, and to not have to work 12 and 14-hour days. And I think that that's something that we're still fighting for people to be able to have a quality of life in addition to working. People want to work, but people want to have some quality of life and some assurance and healthcare and all of the things. So it's not that they're asking for too much, but I'm even nervous about how this is going to impact the industry and George's standing in the business community, because this is going to create a shift financially, I'm sure, to just give these people what they're worth. But the way that greed and capitalism works is that it thrives on a scarcity mentality. So if these people with so much wealth believe that by giving these people at least just enough to have a decent quality of life, not the same quality of life, they're not expecting to get mansions. They just want to be able to feed their families and have a day off, right? These greedy people, these barons, these captains and titans of industry believe that by doing that, they're going to lose so much. And they really won't, because they have so much. But I am concerned about how this is going to impact, like I said, George's standing in the business community. Are people going to not want to work with him? We'll see how this turns out, because his business partner, the way he kind of stomped off, it looked like he was just like, baby, you got it. I don't want no parts of this. So we'll see what happens. Y'all know we're always rooting for George to do the right thing. So the Wintertons have agreed to purchase a box at the Met, since they've been ousted at the academy, right? And Turner is really rubbing Bertha's nose in it. She's like, yeah, we brought over several of the prominent families, the ones who didn't want to fuck with you because you're not us. And this is all well and good. Bertha is really excited, but the getcha gotcha is Mr. Gilbert has agreed, or is proposing, that the Wintertons get the central box at the Met. Now, a huge part of why Bertha has been so instrumental in building up this new opera house is because she wants to be the HBIC. She wants to be the center girl. She wants center stage. And if she has to give up that central box, then this was all for naught. Now, I understand that they pulled in a lot more patrons, but George gave a shit ton of money for them to finish building the opera house. So it seems like that would take precedent anyway, but the politics of this is like very messy, and Turner just continues to be like a nasty bitch. Now, what we love is George don't play about his wife and George don't play about his money. So he had Mr. Gilbert on his very lovely train. I want to go on a luxury train ride so bad, but it's so expensive. This isn't about me. Anyway, and he tells Mr. Gilbert, if you enjoyed that money I gave you to finish this opera house and we kept that, on the DL, I expect for you to give my wife the central box. Otherwise, y'all gonna pay back all my money with interest. So are we clear? I love George be standing on business, okay? And we love to see it. And Mr. Gilbert, why would they have that man on that moving train? Like he had nothing else to do. And it was like, you just get off at the next stop. How rude. That was such a power play, and it was so rude, but I also kind of love it because don't play on my white face like that. George was like, you won't do it to Bertha, not here, not today, not with my money, sweetie. We love to see it. Y'all, I can't tell what's happening with Oscar and this investment. Maybe it's because I'm not a numbers bitch. I'm not a finance bitch. I'm not a finance bro. I don't wear a blue Patagonia fleece vest. So I don't get it. I can't tell if this banker is scamming Maud Beaton, or if she's scamming Oscar, or if Oscar is trying to scam them. I don't understand what's happening. The banker was like, listen, we're just trying to keep the investors to a small number. So we're cashing out, these extra people, you're one of the people we're cashing out. This is a substantial sum. Just take the money and go. And he's like, no, I'm in it for the long haul. Whatever y'all about to get, I'm trying to get that. And the fact that the banker keeps, like, it seems like he's advocating for Maud Beaton, where he's like, she doesn't deserve to be tricked. It's like, okay, but are you tricking her and you don't want Oscar to catch up? Something is weird. I don't know what's going on here. So we'll see. And I'm worried, like, is Oscar gonna like lose all of the Van Ryn money? I just don't trust Oscar. It's something about his face. It's just so skeevy. Agnes is being really ugly about Ada's happiness. She's writing to her from Niagara Falls and saying everything is lovely and everything is wonderful. And it's like, Agnes, I don't know if you know it, but you really just kind of seem like a hating ass bitch. It's not cute to not support your sister. And Marion is all of us. Marion is like, girl, what else is happening in your life? Because I don't want to sit here and listen to this. Like, please be nice to her when she come home. I'm really disappointed in this turn in the story. Once Aunt Ada and the Reverend get home, they discover that he has cancer. Now, cancer is a scary diagnosis in 2023, and it's about to be 2024. Imagine back then with healthcare being a relatively like new practice. They don't really know as much as we know now, and even now, cancer is a very scary diagnosis to have. So I don't have a lot of hope that he's going to survive this, especially because they're saying that it's spread. And I'm just so sad for Aunt Ada, because like our girl deserves happiness, and she deserves to, live out the rest of her days with this man who she's waited her whole life to love her. And it's just like our poor girl just doesn't, her look just, I was devastated about this for her. I love that Agnes got up and ran to Ada's side to support her and to hold her, but a part of me felt like Agnes was actually happy that this marriage may not last due to an illness. I think that a part of her was happy that she has the chance of getting her sister back. Now, they wanted him to come and I guess triage or recover or heal or whatever with them, but they didn't want to leave their house. And I can understand that. Like, I want to be comfortable in my space with my things. I don't want to have to go over there with you and listen to you make snide remarks, because we know that Agnes probably wouldn't be nice about it. So I fully understand them saying, like, we gonna stay where we at. So Dashel and his daughter continue to freak me out. I don't know what it is about Dashel that I don't like or trust. I get that he checks all the boxes, but something just isn't right. So he's throwing a party at the Botanic Gardens because his family paid for the new solarium. They're huge donors and all this stuff like that. that same day, Marion has a class that she agreed to teach to people to develop their writing and reading skills so that they can get better jobs, so that they can elevate their lives and achieve something more. And of course, no one takes this seriously. And that's really disappointing, because this is what's so interesting about how the haves and the have-nots operate. Even when the people who don't have much try to do things to have a better station in life, those people have so much judgment and talk down upon the people who are trying to help pull them along or help pull them up. And it's just so, it's really disgusting to see Agnes talk down to Marion about doing this, and to see Dashels say, well, it's not like you're a real teacher, so it doesn't matter if you're not there. Why would you diminish what she's doing when it's important to her? Is it how she's like making a fabulous living? No. Is it something that she absolutely has to do? No, but she enjoys it and it gives her purpose. And I don't love that he's not supportive of that, especially because if she wasn't doing that, your daughter wouldn't be up her ass trying to make her new mammy. So let's keep it very cute. And even the daughter like picked up on the shade and was like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't have said that. I don't like Dashel. I just don't like it. And everybody's really pressed for Marion to go to this party. So we already picked up on what was about to happen. We already knew that once Marion was there, this was actually an ambush of a proposal. I don't love a public proposal for myself. I do not want to be proposed to in public. Being centered in that way sounds absolutely horrible to me, but especially because Dashel has only been communicating with Agnes about the prospect of marrying Marianne. Our girl ain't really said that that's the type of time that she was on. Like, yeah, he checks all the boxes, but the vibe ain't there. And it's okay if the vibe isn't there. Like, why should Marianne have to settle? What I love about this scene, okay, two things. Number one, I hated that Marion was put on the spot like that, because the way that that creepy Victorian ghost daughter was looking at her like she was just yearning for her to say yes, that kind of pressure, it just didn't seem right, and it wasn't fair to put Marianne in that position. And even the way that she accepted it was like, if you really want me to. I love that Larry Russell looked absolutely gut punched, and that is the setup for those two to eventually end up together. Because Marianne really doesn't want this. She didn't even remember when she was talking to Larry at a later time that she was engaged. Like, our girl don't want this, and the only person who is asking whether or not this is something Marianne wants is Aunt Ada, because Aunt Ada gonna always go up for our girl. I'm going to bet money that the engagement doesn't last. So Peggy realizes that she's in love with Mr. Fortune, and she has been tasked with presenting or pitching a story about the Black teachers in Brooklyn, like they're the powers that be are trying to close down their schools, and they need to rally support from the community and to publicize this inequity. And, you know, like Peggy's mom said, the South has their issues, and the North also has their issues in terms of racism and segregation and the way Black people are treated. There's always been this conversation about how racism in the South back then was more overt. And I think I remember reading, I need to find it because I don't want to misspeak here, but I think that I remember reading that Black people in the North didn't benefit from advances in civil rights the way that people in the South did, because I think that the racism that Black people endured up here during that period was a little bit more systemic, whereas in the South it was more immediate, like life or death, you're going to get lynched. I think I remember reading that somewhere, don't quote me, but you know, to Peggy's mom's point, there are issues happening in the North that people need to know about. So Peggy pitches the story to Mr. Fortune. He's very excited about it, and he's like, we got to get the word out. We got to hit the streets. We got to let these bitches know. And Peggy is like, I just don't know if we need to be writing another story together. Like, do we need to be doing everything together? Peggy is obviously trying to create some distance between them since they shared this kiss, and she knows that the only way this will end for her is in heartbreak. And Mr. Fortune picks up on that, and we'll see what happens there, because we just don't want our girl Peggy to be a mistress. Y'all know how much I love Jack. So Jack got his alarm clock to work, and Bannister is like, you need to go to the patent office, and you know, you've come up with something truly unique, and all of them pulled together to give him the money for the application. And I thought that was so beautiful. And he ends up not getting the patent because he's not a part of a horological society. So a couple of things. Number one, I love the way this community came together for Jack, because y'all know I'm rooting for Jack and his extra ass Brooklyn accent. I love that for some reason Aunt Agnes doesn't see it for her family, but she really does support her staff in her house. I love that she was like, here, whatever you need, like, we'll help you. And this also pisses me off because, once again, there are always these barriers to entry for people who are not born into wealth. And that shit is true today, that even if you get your foot in the door in one space, there is another barrier to entry and another and another. And it's just white people telling other white people that they're not the right kind of white, or telling people of color that they're not the right kind of person of color to be admitted into this space, regardless of how smart and capable you are. We don't really want your kind here. And that's what that gives me. And it's frustrating that we still deal with that today, that even if I think this is true for us, just as Black people, like of the like millennial generation, we're like part analog, part digital. Like, we grew up kind of, you know, seeing that change or whatever. So yeah, we have a lot of modernity, right, to the way we were brought up. But I know I come from a working class family, and I was just taught, oh, you work hard, you work harder than anyone else, and that's how you'll get far. What we aren't taught, unless you have family that worked in a corporate space, which I didn't have that, no one tells us how you have to have these certain soft skills, and you have to be likable in order to get ahead. It's very difficult for Black people, and especially as a Black woman, to be considered likable in a white space, because just by your existence, and especially if you have any semblance of confidence or self-assuredness, or if you advocate for yourself, you are unlikable. That is a barrier to entry. So I really empathize with Jack a lot, and I am hopeful that, because Bannister looked like his wheels were turning, pun intended, when it came to the discussion about someone in the horological community. Like, maybe he knows somebody that can be a plug for Jack. So I hope that those things work out, because he just looks so devastated. So the Duke is going to come to the Metropolitan Opera. Bertha just almost pissed herself with absolute excitement and could not wait to write to Mrs. Astor to let her know, like, girl, the Duke's sliding through. Well, no, not Mrs. Astor, Mr. McAllister, to say, like, sweetie, the Duke is coming to my party, so you might want to jump ship. This, of course, sends Mrs. Astor into a tizzy, and I think Mr. McAllister is actually letting his allegiance be known, that he's not going to abandon the old guard. And Mrs. Astor is like, you need to try to get the Duke to our side. Whatever she's giving him, double it. And it's like, girl, he's a Duke. And I don't know if he's one of those Dukes who actually like needs wealth, like if he's like land wealthy and money poor, because that was like a thing back then. But I don't know if that's really going to work. And the girls are like really in a tizzy. So it's like Mrs. Astor and Bertha are in like a cold war. But, you know, so far Bertha is really winning because she has the Duke on the opening night. So we'll see how that turns out. Because Mrs. Astor is really taking this like as a personal attack. She looked so sick. And it's just like, baby, the stakes are so low in your life. Like, oh my God. And then Church and Bannister bury the hatchet because, you know, empathy. Church came home drunk one night. It was the anniversary of his wife dying. Bannister had wrote a letter revealing that he was drunk. He went back and got it. So they buried the hatchet. Happy, 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 great. I forgot to mention in the previous video that Bertha had Gladys and her bangs seated next to the Duke. They had a little banter, but I just don't see Gladys as like an eligible bachelorette. She just seems so like, I don't know, just uninterested. And again, maybe it's still the bangs, because y'all know I hate those bangs. So anywho, this video is going on a bit long. That's it for this episode. I will see you guys for episode 7. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and thanks for tuning in.